All right, let me know if you're here. I'm getting notes from people, but I can't tell. Yeah, it says 0 viewers. I'm getting notes from people, but I can't tell. Yeah, it says 0 viewers. I'm getting notes from people, but I can't tell. Yeah, it says 0 viewers. Oh, here we go. Okay. Hi, is somebody else on? Okay, it looks like you guys are getting on, but I can't hear or see you. Hmm. All right, well. Okay, can you guys get into the chat? Maybe we can try the chat and see if that will get us going here. Are you able to get on the chat? Able to see this? I have a feeling it's because I don't have your emails listed in there, because I have not had this problem before, but I'm wondering if it's because I sent it to people's emails in the past from YouTube. Okay, I'm going to get out of this for a second so I can check in on you guys and see if you're commenting. Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody in the chat. Oh, people are on. Hi, but I can't seem to chat with you. Well, I'm glad you're getting in here at least. I put a phone number. Okay, so I listed a phone number, and I'm going to say it now, and also, well, actually, just look at, if you would just look at the PGN network page, I put the phone number on there. And if you can get on, we can at least do it as a conference call. And if you're able to see this screen, I'll just share my slides on the screen and we'll do it as a conference call. So let me know if you can do that. Yeah, I see some of you are getting on, but you're just not able to be in here with me. And I don't know why. The only thing I can think of is maybe it's because I didn't have your emails. And when I've done this in the past, we've done it by email invitation. But anyway, if you can get on the phone call, so it's, here, I'll put it in the chat. That's the phone number, and then this is the access code. Oh, hi. Hello. Oh, hey, Dennis. Oh, now there's a bunch of viewers on the broadcast, but you apparently can't get into the room with me. Is that right? Right. No, let me just. Okay. So okay, so maybe we can do this this way. Let me just. I think it's because in the past when I've done it, I've invited people by email. I think that's what's going on here. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. No, nope. I see my my chat, but not yours. Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe I can turn off my microphone. Let's see. I could do that. Oh, I see. Okay. How long is the delay? Wow. Okay. Well, I will wait 10 seconds, but let me see how okay, I'll figure out how to turn off my mic so that we don't have that problem. And then, so you guys could hear me. You just couldn't interact with me? No. Okay. Well, let's see. So if everybody got on the call, we could do this, right? Because they would be able to see the screen and see me, and you could tell me if things, yeah, yep. Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, let me try this. Can you see it? Yeah, I know. Oh, the wonders of technology. This worked like perfectly the last time I did it. Oh, so funny. Yeah, Zoom is good. Maybe I'll try that next week. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Unbelievable. Okay. All right. Oh, they do? What, to see the chat, you mean? Yeah, I almost asked everybody to send me emails, and then I thought, oh, I don't know, people might not want to do that with Meetup. But I think that may be what the issue is here. On PGN or on here? On PGN or on here? Oh, hello. Oh, hi. Okay, Patty, great. Glad you're on here. Dennis is on here. Hi. Okay, so we've got people on, but apparently nobody can see. I mean, everybody can see me, but I can't see any of you or hear any of you. So, yeah, okay. So, yeah, I have yeah. Yeah, that is actually my preference, but I can't share slides that way. So, you know what? That's okay. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think I sent an email. Well, let me just double check. I can send an email out to everybody on the PGN, that registered, and give them this number. I thought I did that, but it might have been that I sent them the link. Let me just double check. Okay, so I'm gonna not pause the recording. I'm just gonna put it down for a second, and you guys are gonna bear with me while I figure out, because I can't get Google and PGN at the same time. So, okay. All right. All right. Yeah, that's what Dennis was saying. Yeah. Let me just double check this one. Hi. Somebody just join us? Hi, who is this? Hi, Maribel. How are you? And yes. Yeah, we've got Patty on the line as well. Personal. This number is posted on the Personal Growth Network. I think I did post it a minute ago, but let me just double check. Okay. Yes, I did. I put the number on. Oh, you put it on, Dennis. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Oh, yeah, I did too. Okay, great. So we've put it on in 2 places. Oh, I said I would email it to them. That's what I was going to do. Okay, let me. Yeah. All right. Okay, so just put that in for them. Okay, so everybody should get an email momentarily. Okay, so the email's been sent as well. All right, well, that's a start. Sorry, guys. This is a little frustrating for all of us, I'm sure. Okay, so we got to put our resilience skills to work right now. And thank you for managing to call in. Let me, I'll put the number up again for people just for a moment. And then I'll just get started. Because right now, how many people are you seeing on your screen? Yeah, how many people does it say are there? Yeah. Oh, okay, because I have, yeah. Okay. Okay. You know what though? Because you guys can see the screen, right? So if they get on, they'll at least see the screen. And every so often, I'll put the number back up. Because that way I can share my screen with you and I can show slides too. Oh. Okay. Well, what I can't do is hold this up and talk to you because I don't have my headset, and then also like to make sure I run through what I was going to talk to you. Take with you guys, sir. Yeah. Let's see. Maybe I can like wear it like a here we go, like a mug shot. Does that work? Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Hold on a second. All right, let's see if this works. Try it like this. I can get that on there. Can you see? Oh, you can't quite see the number. There, you can see it? Okay. All right, how's that? Is that working? I can kind of hold that with my elbow. There we go. How's that? Oh, you can't see it? Okay. All right. Well, that, unfortunately, without holding it up, so it doesn't. Well, I am propping it up. Yeah, that's holding it up. Okay. Let's see. Let me see what else I can do. All right, I'm going to hold it up every so often. That's all. That's what I'll do because, yeah, it's just not working this way. Wonderful. And you know what? I did double check email to see. I haven't. Okay, so yeah. Oh, here's okay. Maribel's okay. Okay, I'm watching you on my phone, so cannot call in. Okay, so somebody's watching from their phone. Okay. I'll just say great. Sorry about audio. Oh, well, they must be able to hear the audio. So they just can't, so they can just email me. All right, so you guys can hear my audio on the screen, correct? On the video. Right, but when you, before you turned it off, you could hear me. So the person who's watching from their phone can hear me, and then they can email me a question if they have one. Okay, and I could just say that on the audio, and they'll hear me say that. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Tom said it's working for him. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep going. And sorry about the, it's like I got this set up this morning before I went off to do all the other stuff I had to do, and it seemed like it was all set up and it's worked before. So I apologize, guys. Don't know quite what happened. But anyway, I'm glad we're all here, and let's get going on this. So wait a minute. Where's my little screen share button? Hold on a second. Why is this? All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now so that you get that. All right, how's that? You probably don't have it yet because of the 20-second delay. That's crazy. It may just ruin it, right? Yeah. Okay. There is someone watching from their phone. So, okay. Well, I would say then maybe if other people call in, I'll just stop using the screen altogether. But because there seem to be a number of people watching the screen, I want to give them something. Oh, you can see it now. Okay, great. All right. Well, this is what it just, okay. Well, that's weird. So on my screen, it's still there. Okay. Um, Screen share. Okay, desktop, PowerPoint. Okay. All right, screen share. Okay, should be back in a minute. So we're really here to talk about positive psychology, which, by the way, gets into resilience, so that when things don't go quite the way you want them to go, how do you deal with that? And so I'm really happy that you all are on the call. I'm sorry that you had such technical difficulties, and I am going to run the call again next week, and we'll do it differently. So first of all, if you don't want to be on again next week, that's fine, but I will figure out how to record it, whether it's audio or video, so that if there's anything people have to miss tonight, you'll be able to get that. So tonight I was planning that we would talk about what is positive psychology, since we said this was an introduction to positive psychology, talk a little bit about the Flourishing Revolution, and then what we call CAPP, which is the certificate in positive psychology. And I did ask people to email in advance, or put on the chat, or certainly you can say it on the call if you have particular questions or there's something on your mind that you wanted to talk about tonight. So feel free to interrupt, and feel free to tell me if you have any questions on your mind already. I didn't get any in advance. All right, are you seeing the slide? Okay, great. All right, great. So let's just talk for a minute about what positive psychology is and isn't. And this is Marty Seligman. So he's the fellow who is considered the father of positive psychology. I mean, there's a ton of researchers in the field. But Marty's the one who was the president of the American Psychological Association and a professor at University of Pennsylvania, and really, really well known for his work in depression and resilience. And he realized that traditional approaches to psychology were very much based on the model of there's something wrong, let's fix it. And so it was this idea that when we're off kilter, we would try to get back to normal. But he realized that what we needed was to be thinking about optimal human functioning, right? So it's not just getting us back to normal, but what is it that makes us at our best, the highest performance, the happiest that we can be. And so what positive psychology is scientifically studying. What does that mean? What does it take to get optimal human functioning? And so the idea behind positive psychology is to discover and promote factors that help people to flourish. And we do that for individuals, we do that for communities, we do that for organizations. So Marty was the one that really put the stake in the ground and really began pulling everyone together around this. And so I went and studied with him in the second year that he had the master's program at University of Pennsylvania. And for me, it's a lifelong passion. From age 17, I bought my mother a book called Enthusiasm Makes the Difference by Norman Vincent Peale. And I realized she had no interest in it, but I was the one that was really interested in it. And so from then on, it was this weird thing that I did on the side. And I didn't really tell a lot of people about it because nobody seemed to be very interested. And if they were, they thought it was kind of an odd thing to be studying. But what I would do is I would study all these different people, and then I would try it out in my work and in my life. And I found that these positive approaches to life were really, really helpful. And they made some very significant changes, like even in my work, in business. So anyway, so then when a field called positive psychology emerged, I just thought, well, I've got to go be part of that. Like that's who I am. That's what I'm about. So I've found it fantastic, and I won't get into it now, but while I was at University of Pennsylvania, there was a tragedy with a boy that I know, and I was just absolutely grief-stricken and felt like I was under, 30 feet of water, and had to go and do the positive psychology, practices that we do, and go to the classes and everything. And I did not want to be happy then. I was in grief, and I just wanted to be in grief. But what I discovered was the power of positive emotion, because what it did was, even though everybody there was fine with me being in grief, they totally understood it. I was fine with me being in grief. What happened was, because I had to do these exercises and apply these tools, even though I didn't want to be happier, I bounced back. I mean, I wasn't ecstatic, but I was no longer 30 feet underwater. And then little by little, I became happier again. So it was fascinating for me to experience it personally. So as I said, Marty's considered the father of positive psychology. And there are a lot of other people in the field that we study with. But in any case, Marty says that the way this all got started was he was out in his rose garden. That's his hobby. And his 5-year-old Nikki was out there, and he's pruning and trimming and doing all this stuff. And Nikki is out there joyfully picking up all the sticks and debris and throwing them all in the air and having a great old time and making a mess of Marty's rose garden. So he snapped at her, and she went away, and she came back and she said, Daddy, remember when for my 5th birthday, I agreed to stop whining, and if I stopped whining for 3 months, I could get a bike? She said, well, that was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. And if I could do that, you could stop being grouchy. So that just kind of led him to think about this, and maybe seeing a joyful 5-year-old was part of it. But anyway, it's what really got him thinking, there's got to be more to this than just not being depressed. And so what does it take to flourish? So one of the things that's happening with positive psychology is just this idea that we're asking new questions. Traditionally, it was, what's wrong with somebody? How can we diagnose what's wrong with you? How can we label it? And then, what do we do to quote unquote fix you? And positive psychology is very much about, you may be fine where you are right now, but how do we help you to flourish? What does it take to be at your highest level of performance, whether that's in, happiness in terms of emotional, whether that's spiritual, whether that's physical. And it's also a place where it kind of blends two fields. So, I mentioned that I had been studying the whole self-help world. And I mean, some of them were scientists as well, but, there's a whole body of work out there from a lot of different domains: spiritual, self-help, religious practices, that claim these are paths to being happier or having a more fulfilling life. And so then what positive psychology tries to do is bring in the science. Let's test these things. Let's see which things seem to work well for people, and why they work well. The other thing is that positive psychology is about the permission to be human. So in other words, it's like not all positive all the time. That's not human. When the video link isn't working, I'm not at my most ecstatic moment. And that's normal. So we have a range of emotions. And one of the things we do actually is look at what is the value of negative emotion, and increase what we call positivity, which is simply a ratio between positive and negative emotion. Barbara Fredrickson, who you may be familiar with, has done great research on what's the value of positive emotion, what's the value of negative emotion, and then our whole goal is that you either increase your positive emotion or reduce, so either increase the numerator or decrease the denominator, so that you increase your positivity, and that you can take it in doses that, because sometimes people react to all this positive stuff. And again, it's not supposed to be like, oh, you're unhappy, slap a smiley face on, you're supposed to be happy now. It's not that at all. But we also know that different tools fit different people and different situations better than others. And so trying to offer things in a way that each of us can absorb what works for us at this point in time, or our organization. being able to move without getting stuck. So, again, having pathways that allow us to make small progress without getting mired and feeling like, oh, we're just stuck. Or as Dr. Rao says, show up in the world the way you want to. So everybody's still on the phone? And I'll put the, okay, I'm gonna, are you seeing me? Are you, great, Maribel, thank you. Dennis, thank you. Are you seeing me or the slide? Okay, so what I'm going to do for a moment is I'll put up the phone number one more time for people. Let's see, how do I do that? Okay, stop screen sharing for a moment. All right, let me know when the number's up. Wow, what a delay. You seeing the number yet? Yeah, no kidding. Yay! All right, so I'm going to leave it up for 10 seconds or so in case people need to write it down. Any questions so far on your mind? Okay. All right, we'll keep going. Let's see where we are. Start screen sharing. All right. You guys can let me know if you would when the slide comes back up. Yeah. Do you mean recently or in the past? Yes. Yes. No, I think that's really interesting too, Dennis. Yeah. It's. Do you have any thoughts about why that might be? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I really don't know the history of it. Dennis, you and I have talked about how we were both people that were so interested in psychology at a young age and yet weren't really interested in what was, it's not negative, but traditional psychology. Like that's not the world we wanted to spend our time in. But when positive psychology came along, that seemed more what each of us were looking for, and maybe some of the rest of you as well. I'm not sure why. The only thing I can say is that there have been people out there, and in positive psychology, I mean, we have our roots in Aristotle, and I'm sure even before Aristotle. So, there have been people out there for thousands of years, certainly for 100 years that I've studied, who were espousing certain aspects of a positive approach to, your mental well-being or your spiritual well-being. And most of the population, oh, hi, we're getting some new people on. Hi, Joanne. Hi. And did someone else join too? Hi, Erica and Joanne. I'm so sorry about the technology. Were you able to, have you been able to see the screen? Okay, great. Great, great. You may want to mute your video conference on the screen. Yeah, I can hear the 20-second delay. Yeah, okay. Yes, yes, I think that's a good idea. Oh, okay. Okay, well, you know what? When you step away, can you mute? Are you able to mute your phone? I think if you press *6, you'll be able to mute your phone if you don't have a mute button. Okay, perfect. So just you could leave that on when you could leave your video on when you step away and mute your phone if you want. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, because otherwise we get the echo on the phone, and for you it'll be frustrating because it's about a 20-second delay. So, all right. Well, thanks for your patience, everyone. This is testing your patience and your positivity. We'll say right now. So you've all passed. You see, this was really just a test. But anyway, so long story short, Dennis, I really don't know why, but I suspect that a lot of the world wasn't really that psyched about these topics, even though there are people who were out there who were very popular with certain segments. I think it's just a growing interest that people have, and so maybe the field of psychology is keeping up with that. I don't know. It's an interesting question. But certainly, I mean, we are just seeing a huge increase in interest in positive psychology, interested in happiness, interested in more positive approaches in organizations. And actually, that's one thing I'll say, having been in business, and I know a number of you probably have too, I've always noticed that there are quite a few people in business that are optimists or that are, just really have a pretty upbeat approach. And I have found, often with CEOs or with other senior leaders that they are really pretty quick to be excited about sort of a more positive approach to change in their organization, because it's something that they've sort of fundamentally lived themselves, even if they don't articulate it that well. And there certainly are also, I remember CEOs I worked with that were in prayer groups. So Steve Jobs, had a Buddhist monk that was his advisor, so not just for individuals, but I'd say also organizations and communities are pretty interested these days. So our model, we talk about 3 areas of focus, which is self-awareness, just being more aware of our own emotions, about how we get triggered and respond to things, what sort of helps us to flourish, self-compassion. So most people, most of us, are our own toughest critics on the inside, and developing more self-compassion is really, really important. It's actually something the Dalai Lama has written about. I read his book on that. It's called The Art of Happiness, before positive psychology even existed as a field. So he talks about that. And then self-care. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But basically, we believe that we should be as concerned with building well-being as with preventing illness, that people languish because they lack the skills to flourish, not because events happen to them, not because that's who they were born to be, but simply because they don't have particular skills. And so it's changeable. And the other thing is that we believe self-care is healthcare. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But I actually did some research for an organization I was consulting with. It's a healthcare organization, and we were doing some strategy work. And now this was probably, good 8 years ago now. So the numbers are probably much bigger now. But at that time, Americans were spending more out of pocket on alternative approaches to health than they were on doctor visits. So that's what they're paying out of pocket. It's not what the insurance company's paying. But it's just interesting that so many people are looking for ways to improve their own self-care, in addition to traditional healthcare. And finally, we believe that practitioners need to be empowered with the research and the science. And that's actually why I went back to school, was simply because, I wanted to be part of this community. I was just really excited about the field, but it was also that I felt like if I was going to bring this work to other people, it had to be more than just my own experience, right? I didn't want to just walk into clients and say, this is the way I do it, or this is the way I did it when I was a leader, or whatever. I wanted to be able to at least have grounding in research and the science behind it. And then finally, we think the community is really important. It helps build momentum. I mean, Dennis, I know you're the organizer of this personal growth network. And I think it's phenomenal, the community you're building. And we believe that, community is really important. It energizes us, it rejuvenates us. And particularly when you're in a field like this, where even if you're just doing it for yourself, as I said, for all those years, I was doing these things on my own, but I wasn't encountering people that wanted to talk about it or that I knew of that were trying these same kinds of things. So it's helpful. We do think that there's a revolution going on here. And I've already mentioned this, but just the idea that, getting rid of negative emotion, the traditional idea was, well, that's what makes you happy. But that's really not enough. Getting rid of the negative emotion brings you back to baseline, but it doesn't necessarily give you the skills to flourish. And one of the things we've seen in traditional psychology is, and I'm a huge believer, I've been to therapy myself. I think traditional psychology is fantastic. I have friends that are psychologists and therapists, et cetera, and psychiatrists. But, one of the things we've seen is that relapse rates are very, very high. It's expected in psychology that people, once they have one depression, they're going to continue to have a depression, or they're going to continue to have anxiety. And what we found in positive psychology is that doesn't have to be the case. So, okay, so let's just, if it's okay, I'll just tell you a little bit about the certificate program. And by the way, I'm happy to stay on the call. I want to be really respectful of your time. So as long as you want to stay on is fine with me. But I'll get through a little bit of this now so that people want to jump off. You can feel free to do that. And then, and also I'm happy to have you email me questions after the fact. So, because again, I apologize that we didn't have as much time as I would have liked, or as much interaction as I wanted for this meetup. But so this CAPP is a 6-month journey. It's for both personal and professional learning. We have almost 300 graduates around the world now. It was started by my friend Amelia in New York. She's just amazing. And it's been run there a bunch of times. Now it's been run in San Francisco and Philadelphia. We're bringing it to Boston, to Toronto, Chicago. And so it's really a growing area. And the people that have been through it, well, I'll get into that in a minute, but it's really quite a range of professionals, but it's also people who just come to the program for personal interest. So that's interesting. And the other thing I should just mention about that, I went to the MAPP program thinking that I was doing it for professional reasons. I mean, yes, it was my personal passion, but what I wanted to do was bring my personal passion to my clients. So that's what I thought that was about. And what I discovered after I went through the program was that, yes, it was phenomenal for changing my work. And my clients actually, frankly, loved it as much or more than I did. But the bigger thing for me was what it did for me personally and what it did for my family. So it's really kind of interesting. Go into it for one reason and come out with another. The foundation is Flourishing. And what we believe you need to know for that is just how your mind works, how your brain works, how your body works, and how they interact together, and how they tie in with spirit and emotion, as well as what you evolved for, right? And so there's this part of our brain that we call the reptilian brain. My advisor was Dr. George Valiant, who's known for his book Aging Well, and his research. He's an amazing researcher. He ran a long study of guys from Harvard and looked at sort of what factors helped people to live good lives. And so one of the things he talks about is that we've got this reptilian part of our brain, which is where all the things, the kind of fight or flight response is, right? So the things that trigger us, the things that get into the negative emotions are in that older, smaller part of the brain. But we have this big new neocortex and these other parts of the brain that have evolved in us. And so really looking at what does that evolution mean? Like, why are we evolving that way? And what does it do for us as humans is, really important. I talked about self-care as healthcare. Whoops, sorry, okay, so self-care is healthcare. Just this idea that, yes, we are going to use traditional approaches to healthcare when we need them, but there's a tremendous amount that we've learned and that we're learning about what we can do to help our bodies flourish without necessarily going into traditional healthcare. And so that becomes more of a last resort instead of the expected pathway. So just a little bit, I mean, this is just going to be an eye chart for you, but here are many of the skills that CAPP grads learn. I mean, it is a 6-month program. It is a certification, so we want people well prepared. I'll just leave that up for a moment. Are you seeing the screen? I may be moving too fast. Okay. Okay, okay, thanks. So I'll wait on this one, and you can tell me when this one's up. But there are quite a few tools, pathways, approaches that are in positive psychology and that we're bringing into this program. So just let me know when this is up for you. It's up now. Okay. Yeah, so that's just a listing of many of the tools and approaches that we go through in this 6-month program. Okay, and I'd be glad to come back to it and talk more about something if you want to, but just real quick, in case anybody wants to get off the call. So this is, I'm going to talk about Marty Seligman's PERMA model, his model of human flourishing. So the P is positivity, okay, then E is engagement, then relationships, meaning, achievement. And then in this CAPP program, we include vitality. So Marty's model is PERMA. And some of us arrived at CAPP. We were the second year of they had the program. And we were immediately thinking, well, you can't be talking about well-being and positive psychology without talking about our bodies and moving our bodies and vitality in our bodies. Because it just happened that personally, a few of us at least, were very oriented that way. And so this CAPP program actually includes this whole piece on vitality. They are beginning to bring it into the master's program of positive psychology, but I'd say CAPP is actually a little further ahead on this because over the years, people that have come into the MAP program have said, we got to do more on the body. Marty used to say, we are a neck up science. And we've encouraged him to, and he actually now wears a pedometer and recommends 10,000 steps a day. So I'm sure pretty soon he'll be bringing vitality into his model. But anyway, positivity, in that module, so there's 6 modules that we're talking about in the program. In positivity, we're talking about positive and negative affect. That simply means emotions. And what they're good for, and how you bring them about. So I don't really love the word intervention. It's kind of a traditional psychology word, but it is the word that they use in positive psychology. But basically, what can you do to change your positivity? Okay, so what can you do to increase your positive emotion or soothe your negative emotions? Talking about neuroscience and evolutionary theory. We're talking about Carol Dweck's mindset and resilience training. So some of us have gone through a postgraduate program with Marty and Karen Rivich and others on resilience. It's called the Penn Resilience Model. And that's based in some more traditional tools as well as positive psychology. And it's kind of, how do people get back on track when negative events happen? And all sorts of mental pathway training that you do in there. Optimistic thinking skills, a lot more than just the glass half full. There's things you can actually train yourself and your clients to do that build optimism in over time. And then positivity at work and within organizations. So then there's engagement. So Mike Csikszentmihalyi's work in flow and peak performance. There's other people. I studied a lot of people in peak performance before I threw out my research and started over after the tragedy. So there's people like Abraham Maslow, and there's lots of others who focus on peak performance. So, just what is the science behind that? What are the learnings that we have on people with peak performance? Strengths. And traditional psychology, as I said, looked at more diagnosis and what's wrong with you. What we're doing here is naming strengths. And Marty and Chris Peterson put together a set of 24 strengths. So we go through that and look at how you apply those and build on those. choice and decision making. So that's Roy Baumeister's work and some others as well. But decision making and choice can be really depleting. And Barry Schwartz at Swarthmore has done a lot of work in this area. And it can be really depleting. And using your willpower can be exhausting. So we look at that and we look at, well, how do you build that as a muscle? And what do you do to replenish yourself? And then self-regulation skills. Most Americans, by the way, are, consider their own self-regulation skills to be among their lower skills. So we talk about how you build more self-regulation because it turns out to be an important success factor. And by the way, just because we view it as a lower strength doesn't mean we're not good at it. It just means it's not one of our top strengths. But you can build it. And then mindfulness training. And getting into using mindfulness approaches, relationships. So foundations of thriving relationships. There's some really great research on what really matters to thriving relationships, and it's not the same as traditional approaches to relationships. So, which, by the way, traditional approaches, I've used some of them in my own relationships. I think they work really, really well. But there's also some new things about what you can do to build on the positive in your relationship. Looking at kindness and altruism. Appreciative inquiry, this is David Cooper-Ryder's work. I use that as a foundation of a lot of work that I do in organizations and even with individuals. And one of the things, by the way, we do in CAPP is we focus very much on application. So Cooper-Ryder's is beautiful. It's phenomenal. It's about starting with what's good and building from there, what's strong and positive in the organization. And it's amazing the effect that it has on a community of people or an organization. But there's also a lot that you may want to do if you were working with a community or an organization. There's a lot you might want to do to tailor that or to couple it with other approaches. And that's something I do a fair amount of and love to talk with people about. Peaceful communication and social emotional leadership. So I'm going to go through these a little bit fast and we can come back to anything you want to. Again, just trying to be sensitive to the time. So meaning, I think meaning is so powerful for individuals and for organizations. So there's really great work, research around purpose and passion and work as a calling. Amy Rozhnewski, who's at Yale, has done wonderful work on this. And work on awe and transcendence. Kathleen, whose last name is escaping me right now, but she's done some really nice work on awe and transcendence, as has Jonathan Haidt, and what that does for you, and how can you build more of it. The neurobiology of belief, which is my buddy George Valiant's, he's done some of the work in that area, and just wonderful. And a spiritual search for the sacred. So we do talk about some spiritual practices, not religious, and open to all sorts of different religious practices, but more just sort of some common denominators in some spiritual approaches that relate to having meaning in your life. And then the achievement module gets into hope theory and how you build more hope and the value of hope in flourishing. It gets into change theory, gets into Dichi and Ryan's work on self-determination and motivation. And again, this was one of my personal passions in positive psychology. It's still something I use a lot of. And this is also an area that goes back to Aristotle. So for example, just to give you a quick little example of why I love this, there's a lot of Aristotle that's built into different parts of positive psychology and also built into maybe a little bit of it probably in some traditional psychology. But there's one piece that isn't traditionally talked about or built in, and that is Aristotle talked about, he called it the perfect man or the ideal man, but he didn't really mean like you had to be perfect. He talked about when you're at your ultimate, your peak performance. And he said it's when your will and desire are aligned. And I just love that. It's a very different take on motivation. It's really, and actually Abraham Maslow, if you're familiar with Abraham Maslow, he also came at this for peak performance. So we talk about that. Talk about goal setting and what we know about goal setting and meeting goals, and how you both set goals in ways that make them more achievable, especially even big goals, and then what positive psychology has to say about achieving your goals in practices you can use. We get into coaching and accountability. There's continuing education credits for people who are coaches. If from this program, get into visualization, habit and ritual, and the importance of those. And then, I'm sorry, Angela Duckworth's work in grit and perseverance. Okay, and then vitality, which I love. So we go into both psychosomatic and somatopsychic principles, right? Because the mind affects the body, but the body also affects the mind and the spirit and the emotion. So it is interrelated. Get into stress versus calm and the different systems in your body that and how do you build up the parasympathetic part of your body, which helps with the calm. And sleep and the importance of sleep. We get into bodily alignment, physical activity, nutrition, and of course, aging well. So basically, this program is about positive psychology practitioners, which are people who help people to flourish using evidence-based tools and work with organizations as well. So some of the kinds of people that do this are coaches, consultants, therapists, educators, facilitators, individuals, HR managers, business leaders. We've had lawyers in there, physicians, yoga teachers, wellness practitioners. As I said, there's over 300 now that have gone through this. And our mission is just to have the most leading and comprehensive education in this science of human flourishing. It's all about application, application, application. So that's where it differs a lot from the master's program, which is more theory and also a lot of paper writing, which doesn't happen in this program. So it's very much about how do you apply this in your life and in your work, and then creating a positive and supportive environment. And then as I already mentioned, the personal growth part of this is really, really valuable. And so we focus on both. And frankly, one of the things a lot of us find, I'm sure you find in your own work, is that living what you're talking about is really, really important and really valuable. And so the personal growth is important if you're bringing this to people professionally as well. And finally, delighting our participants. So it's an experiential and an edutainment program. And we're sharing what's out there. We're sharing best practices, not trying to reinvent wheels. So that's it on CAPP. That's the overview of positive psychology that I think you get just by understanding what the CAPP program is. I think it gets into a little more detail on what positive psychology is. So I'm really curious, what's on your mind? What are your questions? Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Patty. Yeah. Yes. Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So a couple of things. First of all, so the program is so 1 weekend, 2 days every month. 1 month it's twice because we have a total of 7 sessions. So for 2 days, we are going through a particular module, going through the practices and the research behind that module, but we're actually then applying it in the classroom, right? So we've got exercises where people are learning to develop the skill. It's being taught by me in the classroom by somebody who's out there practicing it with individuals and organization communities, and I have been for officially as positive psychology for 9 years now, but unofficially for probably 25 years. So So it's both, it's both like what you're doing in the classroom, but then also just practical real world experience. We also run teleclasses once a week in between where we're talking about application of things that tools and approaches that you've been learning about. And then we do once a month webinar with a faculty member, one of the researchers in positive psychology. And we also do occasional calls with positive psychology practitioners. So people like me who are in different fields and walks of life and just learn how are they applying this in what they're doing. Is that getting at your question? Okay, great. Oh, sure. What else is on everybody's mind? Hi, Erica. Sure. Not at all. No, it's really interesting. Yeah. So I went to New York and participated a few of the times when Amelia was running it in New York so that I could observe it and, get to know her version of positive psychology and help to develop the version for Boston. And it was really interesting. I mean, there were people in the program who simply came because they wanted to learn about this. And they didn't plan to do anything with it professionally. There were many people in the program who are not coaches and have no background in coaching. So we teach several different coaching frameworks in the program. Now, I've been coaching for probably 15 years. So I might have thought, well, that won't offer me much of anything. I didn't really think that. That's not why I was there. But the interesting thing for me was, one of the frameworks we used was a framework that I hadn't seen before. It was still fun for me to be practicing it with people and helping others to practice the skill. So, there were people that had never had it and they got a lot out of it. And there were people who were experienced with coaching who still got a lot out of it and enjoyed the process. So no, you go ahead. Yeah, so you don't have to have any sort of background. This is people take this for personal interest, and then other people take it to use professionally. Well, that's something like I can talk a little, like I run some webinars on that for an organization, and I'm happy to talk with people about that. And I know there's others in positive psychology that would be very happy to talk about that. We don't really spend a lot of time in that in the course because people are coming from quite a few different professions. So we don't want to spend too much time in one. But because I have a background in business and also I've worked on my own for 15 years, of course, I want to offer that to anybody that wants information about that. So I'm very happy to share any information on that and help people to understand that. So it's not like part of the formal slides that we do, but I mean, how we apply this in business, there's absolutely in the formal slides, and then there's more that I offer from my own experience. But in terms of building your business, that's not in the formal slides per se, but it's something I'm happy to help people do. And I know others in positive psychology that are. Yeah, sure. Thank you. How about other people? Questions about positive psychology? Questions about CAPP? Anything? Yeah, okay. Hopefully not too overwhelming, but I know it's a lot to put into it in an hour or so. Thanks, Dennis. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Oh, good, good. I'm so glad. Um, while we're talking, I'm just putting up another slide that gives contact information if you want anything. Oh, and I should. So I'm giving you information when it comes up. I know it's delayed. Um, about if anybody's interested in registering, of course, there's a link there. Or if you need to learn anything more, Lewis at the Flourishing Center can help with that, or you certainly can email me if you want to. But I also want to just tell you guys that I didn't even get into my research tonight, and some other time I'll do a workshop for those who are interested in that. But one thing I do is I do these quotes, usually twice a week, not always, but they're just little 1-2 sentence quotes that go out, and they're called "What I'd Say If You Wouldn't Roll Your Eyes," love notes to my child. And they started as something where my kids were basically out of the house, or getting into college when I finished my positive psychology program. And so I kept feeling like, oh, I wish I had known these things when you guys were younger. I would have taught you this. So, like any good zealot, I kept trying to teach my kids what I had learned. Not putting my coaching hat on, which I would never do with a client. But, with my kids, I kept feeling like, oh, I should have taught you guys this when you were younger. And my kids would bear with me for a minute or two, and then they just kind of like roll their eyes or cross their arms and say, okay, mom, enough already. So I began writing down all the little things that I wished I could tell them, but it would be going through my mind, and but I didn't want to bombard them, and I knew they could only take things in small doses, whatever, and that they needed to live their own lives, right? They needed to find their own paths, and they didn't need me teaching them something. Anyway, I shared these with a friend, and she was like, "You got to share these with people." So anyway, that's how it all kind of got started a few years ago. Shared it with a few people. They said, "Please, keep it going." And so anyway, it's free. If you want it, just go on the link that's shown there. It's christineduvivier.com/connect. And you're welcome to join in. People tell me actually they put them up on their office walls sometimes, because it's not just for kids, it's for all of us. So if there's anything useful to you in there, you're free to sign up and be part of that. Other questions? Other things on your mind, like that you want to share or talk about? I wish we could have been a lot more interactive. I'm glad we did get to be on the call together. Maybe I'll take the screen down and I do. I don't know if it's live yet, but we will make it live soon, I think. But yes, I have put something up, and we are doing this same program again next week. Go ahead. Sorry, Dennis. Okay. Yep. Okay. Sure. Yes. Okay. I'm going to go back to Google Hangouts for a second, because I think we still got some people. Oh, what did I do there? Okay. Well, hopefully you can see me. Yeah, okay. Hopefully you guys can see me. Sure, I'll be glad to put that in the comments section. Let me make a note of that. And again, we're going to run this webinar again next week. Most of you probably don't want to sit through it again, but if you missed anything and you want to pick it up, I intend to have better technology next time. And, or maybe we'll just do it as a call next time. That may end up being the easiest thing. So anything else on anyone's mind? Can you guys see the chat? Is anybody asking anything in the chat? Because I can't see it. Okay. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for being part of the call. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I look forward to getting to know you all better. Oh, thank you. Good night. And thanks for your patience. Good night. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Will do.